we're going to pick up our discussion with Roots Revisited, the importance of archiving our ancestral trauma in film. Welcome, Dr. Ken Nave.
Good day, everyone. There's been recently released a second version of Alex Haley's remake on Roots, or what I should say. Alex Haley wrote the book Roots. There was an original Roots movie made in the 70s. It was great. Now there's a remake the History Channel has put out, and there was some controversy because Snoop Lion made some statements on Twitter that he felt that we should boycott this version of the History Channel's Roots. I'm in disagreement with that, and I think it's important that as many opportunities as we can get to archive the ancestral trauma that was slavery and the aftermath of slavery is very important, and I'll tell you why. First of all, let me say that in Snoop's defense, it's very difficult to get an emotion or an opinion out in 140 characters, and sometimes the meaning in text messages and tweets can be misconstrued, and so I don't think that he meant, that there was no value in that. I think what he meant more or less was that that we need to be able to control our own narrative, that we need to be able to control a narrative and not Hollywood, and he felt that there was too much focus on slavery and post-slavery trauma that we suffered and looking at blacks in a poor light. Because I know that ancestral trauma is one of the biggest contributors to pathology in African Americans today, I believe that it's very important that we continue to chronicle and archive ancestral trauma as often as possible. Let me show you something, and we'll go back and revisit. As in some of our previous talks, we talked about how when a person has an environmental trauma, the portion of the gene, and this represents the gene called the epigene, unravels, and it sends molecular changes down to the gene, and those molecular changes turn around and become a chronic epigenetic change, and you get an epigenetically primed individual. Under the influence of an environmental epigenetic catalyst such as rape, such as violence, such as poor nutrition, such as environmental toxins, you get an genetic expression that is transmitted to the offspring, and these genetically altered offspring can show up with all kinds of different physical and psychological illnesses that they carry on and is transmitted transgenerationally through multiple generations of people. This is what we're visiting upon us now. Now, there's been a long-held belief that there's no current injury existing in modern descendants of the slaves, of ancient slaves, but that's not true. And transgenerational epigenetics dispels that theory, that we recognize that environmental trauma causes injury to the genetic expression and leads to pathological disease states. As we go on, to move forward as a race, we first have to look back. And if we're not willing to look back at the effect of slavery and the ancestral trauma visited upon us, we're not going to be able to understand what the makeup and what the condition that we're presently in is due to. So I'm all for archiving our ancestral history in any way that's possible. Now, I think it's important that we embrace those opportunities, but we also continue to tell stories that are being told, like in 42, the Jackie Robinson story, the Ray Charles story that was done so well. And there's also a story coming out about Nat Turner. So we do have African Americans that are attempting to portray appropriately the history of African Americans. But in terms of Roots and of how Roots was able to give us a snapshot of what life for a slave was like, I think is very important. And I think as it plays a role in our understanding of the current psychological state, the current physical or medical state of the black community, it's very important that we look at the past and move forward into the future with that foundation under us. In our next talk coming up later this week, we're going to talk about the Flint, Michigan water crisis. And we're going to move way beyond the whole lead controversy, and we're going to look at it in terms of transgenerational epigenetic effects of lead, other heavy metals, and pesticides that were in the water in Flint, Michigan. Thank you. My name is Ken Nave. I'll see you next time.